Hello, the guest today is Zach Shulman, class of 87, JD 90. He is the director of entrepreneurship at Cornell. So, hi Zach. Well, what is entrepreneurship at Cornell like?
Well, hey, Tony, it's nice to see you again. It's always fun to run into you, even if it's online. So, entrepreneurship at Cornell. I'll give you a little bit of history because I think it might be helpful to you and in the listeners. It's a university-wide program office. I currently have a very interesting reporting structure where I report to a board of 13 deans. So the dean of every school and college, including Cornell Tech, including Weill, in every school up here in Ithaca. And I also now report to a new vice provost. You may have seen that Matt Marks is a vice provost for entrepreneurship and innovation and external relations. And Matt and I are colleagues. He is a faculty member in Dyson. I've known Matt for a long time. He's been at Cornell for just over 5.5 years, and I've known him the whole time he's been here. And Matt now is our first ever vice provost for entrepreneurship and innovation, which I think is fantastic, by the way, that Cornell Central Administration felt the need and the correct fit for this new position.
Entrepreneurship is important.
Entrepreneurship is very important, and Cornell knows it as well as anybody. And as you know, Tony, Ezra Cornell was definitely a entrepreneur. And I recently learned this, that although, and you probably already do, he obviously did not invent the telegraph, but he invented the way to make the telegraph work by having the transmission lines go through glass on the top of poles, which are very good conductors, as opposed to wood, which isn't. And that's really how Ezra Cornell made his wealth, was by coming up with this invention for making the telegraph work, and he made it proliferate, which is fantastic. Anyway, so at Entrepreneurship at Cornell, we do things that benefit the entire Cornell entrepreneurship ecosystem. In startup parlance, we have customers, right? Our primary customers are students, but we also serve faculty, alumni, staff as well. I'd say that probably 90% of our customers are students, both graduate and undergraduate. That's important. But, we do fun things. I like to say we put on big conferences twice a year. My office puts on 4 to 6 hackathons a year. We have an accelerator program, which we fund, which is quite expensive, by the way. We fund eLab, and eLab is taught by a team of faculty in the Johnson School. We have a co-working space called eHub, which I know you've been at, Tony, in College Town and Kennedy Hall, that we operate. We have a mentorship program, which is now called Launchpad Ezra. It used to be called Blackstone Launchpad, and we recently changed the name to Launchpad Ezra. We have Cayuga Forum, which is a YPO type product for alumni who are entrepreneurs, or at least thinking about entrepreneurship. So we run that as well. We do fun things like Entrepreneur of the Year Award and the Student Business of the Year Award, a bunch of competitions and things like that. I'm actually missing some. Actually, I'll say one more. One thing we also fund is Startup Hours, which happens every Thursday night at College Town eHub. And we basically get entrepreneurially minded students together and let them randomly connect and help each other. Sometimes there's a speaker, but we actually pay for the dinner for each of those meetings. I just wrapped up the budget process for last fiscal year, which ended June 30th. And get this, Tony, we spent just over $40,000 on food for that. Really expensive. So I might be looking for some cheaper food options, but I think it's really important to allow those students to come together and give them a space where they, a space and predictability about when they can hang out with each other. A lot of students show up, particularly when we have a really big profile speaker. But the good thing about this is that I don't run them. I'm not responsible for organizing. I'm not responsible for cleanup. I just fund the food and have it, for free in our co-working space, and let the students take it from there.
Very cool. So that's like the overall, like all the different programs. Like from a student's perspective, like from an individual student perspective, they walk into Ithaca, they walk to Cornell. Like what does it look like from their perspective?
That's a great question. So when you come to Cornell as a freshman, you don't necessarily know about entrepreneurship at Cornell. I will say this, a lot of students are now coming to Cornell because of its entrepreneurial rankings.
Wow.
And because of its entrepreneurship, the way that we promote it on this university-wide basis. Okay, so a lot of students are actually coming to Cornell because of this. But if you didn't know about entrepreneurship and were still interested, if you didn't know about entrepreneurship at Cornell, but you still were interested in entrepreneurship, we have a kickoff event every September in eHub. I think you've probably been to one of those as well. And we typically get about 400 people at those events. So we put the word out. We we have the registrar, the university registrar, email all students about this, which is good. And students find us. They find us by talking to their deans. They find us by talking to faculty in their schools and colleges. And once people say, oh yeah, I want to start a company, like a lot of people on campus know that they should be directed to our program for help, which is great. And I forgot to mention, the concept of entrepreneurship at Cornell in the olden days, it used to be called EPE, so
EPE.
Entrepreneurship and Personal Enterprise. And it started as a collaboration between Johnson, the graduate business school, and Dyson, the undergraduate business school, back in the middle 80s, 1980s.
Oh, wow.
So it was really started a long time ago, and it just grew over time to include all the schools and colleges.
I had no idea. It went all the way back then. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it went all the way back. And I mean, it didn't really gain a lot of traction until the late 90s. Okay. And that's when John Jaquette was hired to run the program. They had a couple of people before John, but John was the first, what I would say, really instrumental leader of the program, who built the coalition of the schools and colleges, okay, and really made it clear that what we were doing is something university-wide. Okay, and that's important. And, I joined Cornell as an adjunct in 1998, I think. It may have been 97. I can't remember. So it was a long time ago. And then when I joined the business school, the Johnson School full-time, that was January of 2002 when I joined. And right when I joined, I met John Jaquette, okay? And I fully understood what he was talking about. And when I started doing a lot of programmatic stuff for the Johnson School in entrepreneurship, John and I worked really, really closely together because he really, his vision was all the schools and colleges should do their own entrepreneurial stuff if they can or want to. And because the more entrepreneurship stuff we have, the better off we are as a university.
Yeah.
Okay,
so very decentralized. So there's
very
a lot
decentralized. So he wasn't trying to control entrepreneurship in the same sense that me, who have now run the office for 13 years, but John when John retired, I ended up taking his place. Okay. He retired in 2013. And my goal is not to control entrepreneurship, right? My goal is to promote entrepreneurship across the campus, right? And that's I think, unique. And I think it's important. So John started that, and I continue that tradition.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So by promoting it, you promote like all the different small programs all get lifted up as well.
Correct. So we the expression that we like to use is, rising tides lift all boats.
Okay.
Right. So there could be boats in engineering and human ecology and ILR and engineering and who did I miss? Law school, hotel school. I mean, everywhere. All the schools and colleges can have their own entrepreneurship boats. The stuff that we do rises the tide for everybody. So our conferences, our hackathons, our mentorship programs, Accelerator, they're open to everybody, right? So we want everyone to feel included and for that energy of entrepreneurship to be felt across the campus.
Gotcha. And then all the individual programs, they can to be more nuanced. Like the hotel one might be more hotel focused.
Correct. Correct. I mean, it might be real estate focused. There's even a new program. Do you know about the new Baker House program? Have you heard about this?
The Baker Real Estate?
Yeah, that Richard Baker is starting. So it's completely not Cornell control. It's not part of Cornell. Okay, but it still could be a pretty cool thing for real estate entrepreneurs, right? So that's great. Yeah. It's just something else that students can take advantage of, and in that case, also alumni.
Gotcha. So from the student perspective, they will walk into Cornell in September. They have the big eHub event where 400 people come and they would learn about all these different ones.
Absolutely. Yeah, we go through it. It's a lot to absorb in an hour, but we try to get them exposed to everything. And first and foremost, we get them to join the listserv. Yeah, as you know, the listserv is pretty important. And we want them to join the listserv so they can understand the breadth of what goes on and to be informed about what's going on.
Gotcha. And then what's the typical trajectory of an entrepreneur at Cornell? So they show up, they come to the September. By October, do they have a company? And by November, they have a customer? What's the life cycle like?
Come on, Tony. There's no typical trajectory. And there really is not a typical trajectory. There are freshmen that have companies that are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are seniors who just start. I mean, it's all over the map, honestly. What we want to do is just to get people thinking like an entrepreneur and realizing that opportunities come up, they should be taken advantage of. If they can be monetized and commercialized, all the better. But there's no like, okay, here's the roadmap. Like, it's kind of funny. We actually tried to create a roadmap one time. It might even still be on our website. I should look. But it just isn't really effectual because students come at entrepreneurship from all different angles, right? So yeah, we want them to know about the resources and we want them to participate. We want to provide mentorship, but it's up to them really often to figure out when they want to do it. Right. And if you think about it, eLab, which is our accelerator program, I mean, that's mostly juniors and seniors. Okay. Once in a while, there'll be a sophomore that gets in. It's a competitive program. The juniors and seniors tend to be a little more formative in what they want to do with their companies. But sometimes there's a younger student who actually gets in as well. So I like to say there's no roadmap. And I also like to say the best time to start a company is when you're a student because it's very low risk. Right. I mean, typically their education is being covered. Not all the time. Some students pay for their own. Okay. But typically students' education is being covered by their parents or by a relative or by financial aid or a grant. So if you start a company and the company goes under and doesn't last, you're still a student, which is important. And we do think that students should complete their education, although, there's always a handful that drop out to continue with their companies. And we're not saying that's bad, but we do encourage students to continue through.
So one of the goals is to get them to think like an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
What is it like to think like an entrepreneur? How does somebody start to think like an entrepreneur?
So I think one of the core things about thinking like an entrepreneur is understanding the value of input from customers. So it's not just, oh, I have this idea, let me go develop it and start a company. It's like, I have this idea, let me talk to potential customers about the idea and figure out whether it's worthwhile pursuing this company. And I mean, that's called customer discovery. I think you know that, but it's not about getting these potential customers to buy your product. It's about getting them to tell you what their needs are so that you can come up with a product that's even better. Okay. And eventually customer discovery hopefully will turn into customers. I mean, hopefully, but the real key is to figure out what the customer really wants and needs. So that's like thinking like an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, let me get some input. Separately, it's making students understand that there's not one correct track to follow in life. Okay, like let's use you. You live in DC. If a student really was opposed to living in DC for some reason, which I can't think of why they would be unless they just don't want anything to do with politics at all. Like I say to them, don't go to DC. Like don't move to DC. If a student says, yeah, I really can't deal with the hustle bustle and size of New York City, I'm like, then don't go to New York City. Like go to Boston or Denver or stay in the country. Like you don't need to, you really need to follow your path that makes you happy. So, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. Like they're like, okay, they want to work for themselves because it makes them happy, right? Well, that's great. So think about what makes you happy and try to pursue it.
There's the input from customers and to follow what makes you happy. Those are the two paths.
Yeah, I mean, I think happiness is really, really important, like truly important.
So when a student hears these two points, like how do they internalize it and truly believe it themselves?
I'm not always sure. Let me give you the flip side example. So if you're a student at Cornell or any big university and you want to go into investment banking or consulting, there are definitely things you must do while you're in school. Okay. There's a track and you know what you need to take and you pursue that track and it's defined. Okay. There's some flexibility, but it's pretty well defined. With entrepreneurship, it's not defined. Like that's one of the key elements of entrepreneurship. Because there's no one right way to do it, it's not defined as to what your path is. I mean, think about some of our entrepreneurs of the year. I mean, Tim Berry was a psychology major. The guys that founded Hotel.com were, law school. I mean, it's like it truly is all over the map. It's not just engineers and CIS bowers and like tech. It's much more broadly defined. Okay, so we want students to understand that and the fact that there is no one right way to do it. That's hard for some people. Like they really want the definition and they want something that they can attach to and follow. That's not the way entrepreneurship works. So we try to get people to think more broadly about how they might approach entrepreneurship.
Well,
And also to think about every job opportunity that they might encounter as a potential for entrepreneurship. Like, yeah, go work for a startup. That's great. Work for or even go work for a big company, learn about how it operates, because someday you might want to start a company. Right. And knowing how things operate obviously is critical to starting a company.
so through that process, they learn, like they internalize that there's no path by working at the start.
I mean, we hope that they internalize it. We hope that they internalize it and take every opportunity as a learning, and take every job as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, like they would come back to Cornell and they would give like during the celebration Ezra, they would come and give a speech, like the entrepreneurship of the year.
So the answer is yes, but like a lot of entrepreneurs come back and talk to students. I mean, I always tell people, if you know you're going to be on campus and you want to get as alums who are entrepreneurial minded and you want to get in front of students, like let me know at least 2 or 3 weeks in advance, ideally 4 or 5, and I'll do my best to get you in front of students. Like I'll get you to be a speaker at startup hours, or I'll get you to be a speaker to a student club that relates to entrepreneurship or venture capital.
Yeah, like the students, like when they attend those, like does that like help them think more like an entrepreneur?
Yeah, of course. It also gives them inspiration. It makes them think like entrepreneurs, just to see. I mean, if you go to a conference and you see a speaker who says, and they explain their entrepreneurial path, and it's like all over the place, it gives the students the ability to say, yeah, I like that path, and now I have validation where I can actually pursue it. Okay, so like those, for lack of a better phrase, those alums are serving as role models, right?
And the students are like, they didn't have a path, so I could be okay without a path as well.
Yeah, they can say, yeah, I don't need a defined path in my life all the time, right? And I think it produces more well-rounded people, to be honest.
This is harder to measure though. Like in class, you can give them a prelim and they take the test, and then you can measure like how well they learn the material. Like how do you measure that somebody internalizes well that there's no path?
That's a really good question, Tony. I can tell when people by talking to people, okay, and how comfortable they are without having a defined path, or having a defined path that's quite broad. Like, I want to start a company someday. Well, that's a pretty broad path. What type of company? I'm not quite sure yet. Well, how are you going to figure it out? Make sure it's something that you like doing and that you're good at. So, I mean, I can kind of tell when I talk to people. It's sort of funny, like, and maybe you get this question, like, do students or alums ever ask you, like, Tony, what's the best way to raise money for a startup?
Yeah.
And like, what do you say?
There's no one right way to do it.
Yeah, there's no one right way.
Yeah.
And whose job is it to raise money?
The CEO usually.
It's the entrepreneur's job.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I can't, and I get these questions, like, honestly, weekly, like, I can't help you raise money. Like, and I can't tell you exactly how to raise money other than some like basic stuff. But I kind of feel like most entrepreneurs who are able to raise money didn't have to ask how to do it, right? Like they had some innate ideas, and they also saw people and they interacted. Like, okay, I need a pitch deck. I need a good financial model. I need to tell a story. I need to be a good salesperson with investors. And that's not easy for everybody. Like that is definitely not easy for everybody.
Yeah. There's so much of the other stuff, like the classes, they have a syllabus that they follow. Like everything seems to follow like a structure. This is like the unstructured.
Yeah, well, that's okay. You're right. Classes definitely have a structure. Even my class has a structure. It's actually highly structured.
So what does your class teach then? Exactly.
So the class that my full semester course, which is for only undergrads, is called the Startup and Venture Capital Experience. And it really goes through the early life cycle of a venture-backed early stage company, both from the VC perspective and also from the founder's perspective. So we talk about all the governance issues, founder relationships. We talk about all the investment terms that venture capitalists use so that the people in my class understand what it means economically, which is really important. We talk about company building. So we have founders come in and talk about how they built their companies and how they raise money, right? Which is obviously important. We have VCs talking about what it's like to be a venture capitalist, generally what is VC, and then how to run a firm, how to select companies to invest in, how to interact with founders, or I should say how they interact with founders, right? So it gives a really good picture of the startup venture capital ecosystem, which is fun.
And this is separate from the eLab class. So eLab is like
completely separate. Yeah, it's completely separate. So eLab is a completely separate course. I mean, there's lots of entrepreneurship related courses at Cornell. My class is just one of like 80.
Gotcha. So like earlier, you also said like the how to value the input from customers. So like you have to listen to customers and build a product around them. Like, is there any classes that teach that?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, eLab. So a lot of the startup courses that focus on business concepts and building a business. So eLab is one. There's also Greg and Tom and Ken teach it, where it's basically you remember Professor Ben Daniel?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's like his class, a little change, but where basically the students have to build a business in the class.
Mm.
Okay, so customer discovery is definitely taught. Like the concept and about how to do it, about why it's needed, it's all taught through a bunch of different classes.
And do they like in the class? Do they go through the motions of like calling potential
Yeah.
customers?
Oh yeah.
Oh, so it's like a
Yeah.
very hands-on class stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like kind of like get out of the classroom and go meet with customers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Huh, very cool. Do you have any like specific examples of like the students who did like what are like the role model students who did like the process well, who took the classes and internalized it and then went on to do something?
I mean, it's funny because like some of the biggest companies were not started while the students were students.
There was afterwards?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Hmm.
I mean, just think about like Anduril, for instance. I always like to use Anduril because people tend to know what it is. The defense startup. Method Security is another one. That's Sam Jones did not start Method Security as a student.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm thinking about the speakers that are coming in for the fall conference. A good example is actually Blackboard. So Blackboard, when it started at Cornell, was called Course Info. Okay. And that was started by 6 undergrads. And Dan Kane was the main driver of that with Tim Chi. But they started that company and they built it in Ithaca because it was and eventually they moved it to DC and I should say the DC area. But they started as students and they worked directly with professors. They did a lot of customer discovery. I don't think they called it customer discovery, okay, but they were asking professors like what they needed, like what would make running a class easier. Because this is just when the internet was starting. I mean, well, not just, it was when it was getting big and being used by normal people, not just the government. So like they knew that they needed input from customers and the customers were the professors and they got the input and they built a product that people loved. And then they eventually merged it with another company, took over Blackboard's name and grew a big company that eventually went public.
Wow. So they came through like the entrepreneurship ecosystem at Cornell and then
Yeah, but this was even before it was a big ecosystem. I mean, it was a decent ecosystem in the late 90s, but it's nowhere nearly as big as it is now. Like truly nowhere. No, it's not even close. So it's like there aren't a lot of examples of students who by the time they graduate are generating millions and millions and millions of dollars of revenue. Okay. Math GPT, have you talked to those founders yet?
yeah, I
I
chat
mean,
with them.
they started that as students, okay, and they dropped out, right? And they're pursuing it. I think it's still going quite well, actually. So that's an example. Think of another one. Max Boham. He started a company. They applied to Y Combinator, okay, and it was a company that it was called GradeWiz. It helped STEM faculty grade assignments and saved a lot of time for TAs and faculty. Well, they went through YC and they completely changed their business. Completely. So GradeWiz is now done and him and his co-founder, these two guys started a new company in the dentistry space.
Mm-hmm.
In the basically dentist office operation space, completely unrelated, but that company's doing great. Okay. Like, it's growing and, they also dropped out. They haven't come back yet. I'm not sure if they ever will. But, it's not like there's a ton of those examples of students who are like hitting it out of the park right when they graduate. Right? Because being an entrepreneur is hard.
A lot of them, it's after they graduate as alums, they would start the company and then
Yeah, exactly. I mean, same thing with the founders of Honey, Ryan Hudson and Brian Silverstein. Like they didn't start Honey as students.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they started shortly after, and it's grown. Obviously, grew and got acquired by eBay. So
those usually afterwards.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, but the things that they learned through the entrepreneurship at Cornell, that's like long term, right? Like the customer discovery.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Way after as well.
I mean, it's all the hustle and bustle, and like you did, like we love it when students start companies because they have so much energy, right? They have so much energy when they're students because they're still young and like the hustle and bustle and drive. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Gotcha. What about like the PhD, like the entrepreneurs, like they're like the ones that like have like IP and they're commercializing the IP. Like
Yeah,
what is that ecosystem like at Cornell, and
it's
how do they
actually,
overlap with the two?
I mean, we serve those customers just as much as anybody else.
Hmm.
So oftentimes PhDs are starting companies in a faculty member's lab. So sometimes the faculty member is involved, sometimes they're not,
Hmm.
right? Our most recent example was Factorial,
Hmm.
which just went public. It merged with a SPAC and just went public. That started, I think the name of it was Leonano. I think Leonano, I think was the name of the company originally. You can tell why they changed the name because it's hard to say, which is good. But they were in the life sciences incubator program, which is not for students, by the way. So like a PhD can enter that incubator or praxis upon graduation. And the company started there. They do solid state batteries. I mean, it's really, really cool. And there's obviously overlap with Praxis with that one as well, because Praxis is our physical sciences incubator program. So, it just took a lot of time. And the interesting thing about Factorial, it's actually a husband-wife team.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, which doesn't happen very often, right? I mean, there's not many
Yeah.
husband-wife teams starting companies because the stress level is just too high.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you got there's like the graduate students and professors who started. There's also students who
Yep,
started, and
yep. They
then
start all the time. I mean, Ava Labs, was started by a faculty member,
and then
a
yeah.
professor, Gunsire, and a PhD.
Hmm.
I think John Woo. And now John is running Ava Labs,
Hmm.
right? And Ava Labs also went through Praxis when it first started. So, I mean, PhD students, we love it when they start companies.
And they can also take the classes that
They can
are
take classes, but
offered.
there's also there's resources through CTL if it's a Cornell technology. So Cornell Technology Licensing has resources, both monetary and programmatic. CREA, which Tom Scriver runs, has resources like I don't want to say courses, but like the Hardware Accelerator Program, I-Core, the Cornell's an I-Core node. So the I-Core program is run through Cornell by Tom's group. So like there's lots of resources that PhDs can take advantage of for sure.
Gotcha. That
Make
makes sense.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like what are like the big goals for entrepreneurship at Cornell? Like there's so many different programs. Is the goal to get more people into those programs? Is the goal
Yeah.
to get more startups that are at a certain stage? Like what are the goals? How do you measure the performance?
So I can tell you what my long-term goal that I want to aspire to attain is when a high school student is considering where to go to school and they say to themselves, I want to go to a top school for entrepreneurship. I want to be in the top 3. So right now I'd say we're probably in the top 6, honestly. Okay. I want to be in the top 3. So I want them to say, Stanford, MIT, Cornell, right? Right now it's Stanford, MIT, Berkeley, Cornell, Harvard, even though Harvard's entrepreneurship program isn't university wide at a grand scale, but they produce a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Which is fantastic. I want to be in the top 3. So that's one of my main goals.
Mm-hmm. And you said some students are already choosing Cornell because of that.
They are. Absolutely. I want more of them to do that. Okay. And then obviously I want to increase our rankings, which, we're ranked highly already in PitchBook and LinkedIn and Bloomberg. And, we have all the rankings listed on our website now. So we're ranked highly, but I would like to be even moving up higher. Okay. And then on campus, I mean, it's funny, we don't have a way of measuring all of the students who engage with entrepreneurship. Some students start companies and we never even know about them.
Oh wow.
Like that's okay. That's okay. I mean, Tony, when Y Combinator, which has come to campus now 2 years in a row, okay. Were you at the last one when they came?
No, I heard about it.
Like they got here because students, like a student club or two, like reached out to get them to come here.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had nothing to do with it. Okay, so entrepreneurship at Cornell had nothing to do with YC coming to Cornell. Well, that's great. Like that, I mean, because our ecosystem is producing so much vibrancy when it comes to startups that YC was like, what's going on at Cornell? we want to find out. And the students had enough drive to make it happen. Like I absolutely love that.
So it
It's good.
happens very organically. So rather than
It's
centralized,
organically, and
very
there's no need for
decentralized.
it to be centralized and controlled in one spot. I mean, our new vice provost, he will definitely, I mean, there are certain things that fall under him. I mean, entrepreneurship at Cornell falls under the new vice provost. So does CREA, which is the economic development arm that Tom Scriver runs. Both of our incubators, Praxis and Life Sciences, fall under that as well. So it's like that might feel a little more centralized, but it's not. It's not. I mean, it's very much, listen, any school and college at Cornell participates in entrepreneurship.
And that's really exciting how the students, they just invited YC and YC came. So that
Yeah.
happened like all
I mean,
organically. No need to tell them to do that.
it's like fantastic. I mean, truly, like it's just truly fantastic.
So when a high school student, like back to the first goal, like is thinking of where to go to school, they see that YC comes to Cornell. That's a big selling point.
I mean, I'm not sure. Like,
What
it's
other
funny.
things
Like,
they look
we
at?
don't like publicize that too much.
Okay.
I'm
Huh.
sure that some students do some digging, but they certainly look at like the PitchBook rankings and Bloomberg and
Okay.
the various rankings where entrepreneurship is important and being highlighted. They look at that. They talk to students when they come to campus. You know,
Okay.
like a lot of students make the effort to actually come and talk to other students. So I think I know that we're getting more and more well known as a destination.
Interesting. So like if they show up on campus, they would like know to go on Thursday evening. There's like the
Well,
entrepreneur
if they're on the
gathering.
listserv, they'll know. So the first thing is getting them on the listserv.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
because all of our events get pushed out, right? So
Gotcha.
basically it's two steps: get on the listserv and
Okay.
check your email.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
You gotta do
Yeah,
both.
and they would know about all the events.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm taking perspective of the high school student again. Like they're at their high school and then they're applying to colleges. They talk to their guidance counselor. They what perceptions do they have of entrepreneurship at that point? Do they do like some entrepreneurship club at like high school as
Yeah,
well?
a lot of students are starting companies in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, I get inbound emails all the time from prospective students telling me about their companies. I think what they're looking for is like a way to help me, is the way to give them some sort of leg up getting into Cornell, which I have no say over at all. So I can't help them in that regard. But they're like, they're picking Cornell because of the entrepreneurship stuff that we do. And they like want to learn more about eLab, or they want to know more about our hackathons or our mentorship program. These are just examples.
Interesting.
So they're reaching out all the time, which is great. That just reminds me. I mean, do you know about our new makerspace that's being built?
Well, gee, I
Like,
saw the new makerspace at Cornell Tech. I didn't know about the one in Ithaca.
yeah. So there's one being built in Ithaca, university wide. So there's lots of not lots. There are a few places on campus that are makerspaces, but they're typically limited to a certain group of students, like engineering or architecture, for example. Like the kind of like this equipment is for these students in certain project teams, but we're creating, when I say we, I mean Cornell, okay, is creating a new makerspace in BB Hall. So it's behind Mann Library.
Okay.
Okay. So behind the Cal's Quad, there's an empty building and it's being redesigned and renovated for the makerspace that's got all sorts of amazing equipment where students can actually make things. Okay.
Incredible.
So you don't go there to work on Claude Code in your software company.
Yeah.
No, you go there if you want to make stuff. Like you're making a physical product and you want to see it.
Yeah.
So will students find out about that? Yeah, because they'll read about it on the listserv.
Interesting. And
Right,
when like high schoolers are concerned where to go, they would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you need to have a makerspace where I can build
absolutely.
a project."
There's actually a makerspace on campus.
So that way, it's not just software startups, but there's also hardware
Correct.
startups as well.
And
So
Tony, at Cornell, there's all sorts of startups. I mean, there's ag tech, there's agriculture, there's food companies. I mean, you know a bunch of these companies already, but there's truly a great scope and breadth of companies coming out.
So like you have the e-hubs, the College Town, Kennedy Hall. Now you also have the BB Hall, Makerspace,
Yeah.
the gathering places.
Yep. I mean, the makerspace won't be like an auditorium, or a big place to convene a large group. That's not the point. We already have that. It's a space to make things. So it will have all the equipment that you need. I mean, laser cutters and CNC machines and, like all sorts of stuff, like fancy sewing machines, like all sorts of cool things that you need to make products.
And so these tools are all so flexible. You can make any like clothing, you can make
Correct.
electronics, you can make all kinds.
Correct. Yep.
Interesting. And then if
Anyway,
they follow the listserv, they'll know about it.
yeah, it's just another new resource that's going to be online. It should open. It's just being built now.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's really exciting. That's like completely new.
yeah. We're actually really excited about it.
But like when you talk to the student like entrepreneurs, like what's like the biggest limitation they face? Like, is it like access to customers? Is it like being able to build the product they need? Like, what's the limitation
I
they face?
honestly think the biggest limitation, I think there's two of them. One is money.
Money. Oh,
Yeah, because people like to start a company costs money. Like you can't. It costs money. Like patent lawyers don't work for free. Incorporating costs money. Lawyers cost money. Like it costs money. So money's one issue. And good, win some competitions to get some money.
yeah.
Like when you need to scrap, be really scrappy. The other big problem is that international students often have a hard time starting companies because of visa restrictions.
Mm.
Like they can start the company, but they can't work at it, which makes no sense. Like they can't hold an officer position because it'll mess up with their visa. It'll mess up their visa. So I think that's actually a pretty big problem. And I would love if those rules could actually be changed. There's nothing Cornell can do about that, right? So there's that problem for international students and just raising money and getting money to actually start. It's difficult.
So like YC, they have money, but they come to Cornell like once a year. Like how do other schools how do they build up this like money funnel?
They don't. I mean, like we solve it in small ways. Like we give out summer stipends for startups. So like if you want to work on your startup and you're a student who's not graduating, okay, so like if you graduate, we can't give you money, but when you're a student, we can give you money, and the stipends are $6,000 a summer. So that enables you to work on your startup as opposed to taking a traditional internship.
Well, yeah, because internship would have paid you, but by not taking
so you're getting money. So we do things like that. We have competitions that give money, but I mean, raising money is never easy. And it's not like other schools just have, okay, here's our pot of $5 million that we're going to give out every year. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way.
So competitions like hackathons, they would provide some like winnings at the end.
Yeah. We have big idea competition. We got hackathons. There's a whole bunch of competitions actually that are run each year. Yeah.
Makes sense. And then what was your path to entrepreneurship in this like ecosystem? You did
I already told you there's no one right path, right? So my path is an illustration of that. I started out as a corporate lawyer. So I was a fancy corporate lawyer in Boston at Ropes and Gray, which is a huge corporate law firm in Boston. It's out now, it's international, but this was early 90s, it was based in Boston. And I moved back to Ithaca, Tony, because an old girlfriend of mine got into Cornell Law School. It's the only reason I came back. I came back with her. But when I came back, I switched law firms. I was still a corporate lawyer, but then I started teaching as an adjunct, first in the law school and then the business school. And then in the late 90s, I joined a company as general counsel. It was a venture-backed company, and I knew all about venture capital and governance and HR stuff. So I joined that company as general counsel. And then that company ended up going bankrupt in November of 2001 in the bubble time. And at the same time, the business school asked me to teach full time. So it just, literally, it was within a month. So the business school asked me to teach full time. I told them I couldn't because I had a job. The company goes bankrupt. I call the business school back. I'm like, hey, I'm available. And they're like, great, you can start in January. So this was like very quick. Okay. And so I started teaching full time. But then 3 years later, I joined a venture fund.
Oh, wow.
And I still had a role at the business school, but it was not full time. I think it was 60%, if I'm remembering correctly. I still taught, but then I started doing a bunch of programmatic things at the business school also that were not teaching, like consulting or mentoring the the startup consulting club and VR Ventures. I started a legal clinic while I was there also, bringing in speakers. So I did that until 2013, all the time. So let's say that was 10 years. I was working hand in hand with John Jaquette at this program that I now run.
Yeah.
And Deb. I mean, Deb's been here for the whole time. Okay, Deb Mesh. So my path went from corporate law to general counsel to teaching to having more involvement with entrepreneurship programmatic activities to now running the overall entrepreneurship program. And the VC fund lasted for 20 years. We just wound it down last year. Okay, so and now because we wound that down, I now have more time to teach. So that's why I started teaching again. Yeah. So it was kind of a different path. But I mean, I happen to love Ithaca, so which helps. Like that definitely helps. You need to love Ithaca to live here.
So for the closing question, I always ask the guest, what's the kindest thing anyone's ever done for you?
The kindest thing?
Hmm.
Well, I only have one very, very, very small example. So I guarantee this is not the kindest thing someone's ever done for me. I guarantee it. I'm just not remembering it. But just recently, so you might not know this, but I do a lot of fishing. So I really fish a lot whenever I can. And one of my friends who I purchased a boat from about a year ago, he's an older guy. He's like 75. Now he's probably 77. He got back in touch with me and he's moving away from Ithaca and he like literally gave me all of his fishing stuff.
Oh, wow.
And he had a ton of it, like a lot of it. And I said to my wife, I'm like, I'm not going to need to buy another fishing pole or reel for the rest of my life. Like and that was just out of pure kindness. Like we had a really good friendship, based on fishing and pickleball. I know that sounds kind of funny. And he wanted his stuff to end up with somebody that he liked and trusted. So he gave me his stuff. And I'm taking him fishing in August, because he'll be in town and we're going to go fishing. So I don't know. It's kind of sweet.
Beautiful. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah. Sure thing, Tony.